Hey, good evening, guys and girls. It's Mick, the old punk, doing an uncharacteristic midweek video, and this was inspired by the fact that a friend called me today, and we had a lovely chat. And Fred, if you're watching it, thank you for calling today, brother. I appreciate it. Fred's a good guy. I've known him for 5, 6 years, and he lives out of state, and we have similar businesses. And he's always been a good guy. He's always been friendly to me, but I've always kind of shied away from friendship with anybody, not Fred, but anybody, because of my CPTSD. And that kind of got me thinking that in this day and age, there is a loneliness epidemic. And it's not just in the West, but I think it's more prevalent in the West. And ironically, social media was kind of thought of, designed to bring us together, but in many ways it pushes us apart in the sense that it promotes isolation. And so I want to talk specifically about loneliness and how it can affect you. And I'm going to give you my 4-point checklist on ways to combat it, to help. And I don't have a silver bullet. I don't have the answers. I'm just going to tell you what I do, what helps me, and I think it could help you. And if you stick around to the end, I'll give you my 2 cent conclusion on the whole thing. And if you want this 4-point checklist in a document, let me know, and I'll put it together in a document, and I'll share it in the comments down below. And please don't be afraid to comment below, because reaching out like that and being just the tiniest bit vulnerable is one of the first big steps to overcoming loneliness. So, if you don't want to watch the video to the end, I'm going to give you the 4 main points on the checklist, and part 3 actually has sub ones, but I won't give you those right now. So number 1, and I'll go back and break each one down. Number 1, normalizing loneliness. That might sound a bit odd, but it's important to do that. Number 2, mental health and loneliness, which is very appropriate for me and this channel. Number 3, what can you do? What can I do? What can we do? And number 4, the power of community. And like I say, if you're brave enough to stick through to the end, and I try to keep these to 15 minutes or less, I will give you my brief conclusion. Now, I've made a point of telling you with each previous video that it's raw, real, and unscripted. This is raw, this is real. It's kind of unscripted, meaning I wanted to provide some value to you, so I decided to put together some notes here. And I've just kind of outlined it so I don't forget the points, because, my shiny object syndrome, I'll be all over the place if I don't do that. So it's kind of unscripted, kind of borderline scripted. I don't know how you want to word that, So, number 1, normalizing loneliness. First and foremost, I've been alone most of my life. Through trauma, through self-preservation, through struggles with addiction, whatever it is, I felt more comfortable alone. And you can be in a crowded room and be lonely, and you could be by yourself and not be lonely. Loneliness to me is, regardless of the situation, you feel like nobody gets you. You feel like you're broken, you don't fit in, you're an outcast, people don't understand you. And you might even think of it, especially if you're a man, you might even think of it as a weakness, right? But I'm here to tell you that loneliness isn't a weakness, and I want you to take this point, and if you don't take away anything else from this video, loneliness is not a weakness. Loneliness is not a weakness. It's actually part of the human experience. How we cope with the loneliness, healthfully, not healthfully, distract ourselves with drugs, alcohol, TV, whatever, that's a bit too big to get into in this video. But loneliness itself, as painful as it can be, and it can be painful, loneliness itself, I believe, is a growth opportunity. Now, if you're in the depths of loneliness and there's maybe a bit of depression there, it might not seem like an opportunity at that point. But if you can journal, I'm not big on journaling, some people do. I'm not discouraging it. If you like to journal, do that, because later on when you don't feel as lonely, then you can go back and look at it. So you've kind of got a starting point, right? I didn't put that in the list here because I'm just not one to journal. Point number 2. If you are struggling with CPTSD or just anxiety, this is going to take your loneliness and ramp it up to, it may be at a 5 and it's going to ramp it up to a 7 or an 8. And sometimes that combination of factors can make it feel like I'm always going to be alone. No one's going to get me. I'm never going to be able to get out of this malaise. And you can start spiraling and start asking questions like, what's wrong with me? Am I broken? Am I lovable? Do people like me? Why can't I find friends? And there's a lot there, right? And I don't have time to unpack all that, but there's a lot in there. But again, I'm here to tell you, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. This is part of the human experience. And in my case, my CPTSD, I just have to accept it as part of the journey of healing. Does that make sense? All right, so number 3. And number 3, I have 3 subsections. And they might sound a bit wacky, but stick with me here. Number 3 is, what can we do? What can you do? What can I do? I would be full of shit if I told you, suck it up, walk it off, just get out there, introduce yourself to people, meet things. If it was that simple, we wouldn't have a loneliness epidemic, right? So the first subsection here, and this might be the most important, acknowledge it. Don't ignore it. Don't bury it. Just like, you know what? I feel lonely right now. If you like to journal, journal. If you want to voice recording on your computer, your phone, do that. But acknowledge the fact that you're lonely. Because again, you are not the problem. The problem is life experience, the life we live in this digital age. Everything is isolated. We tend to live in homes that were, closed off from people around us, and nobody picks up the phone and calls people anymore, right? They text or they send an instant message. So things have changed. I'm not saying those things are wrong. I'm just saying those things are different. And the older you are, like me, You're more used to the old school picking up the phone, like my buddy Fred did today, and he called me. If you're young and you're texting, you're probably like, who is this dinosaur? I'm talking about telephones. I get it. The second one is actually connecting online. As much as I've just kind of gone on about social media not being that great, there are forums where you can go to talk to people and help. And I would encourage you, I would urge you to comment below this video, even if it's just to say hi, even if it's just to tell me that my video helped you or my video sucks, whatever it is, just to initiate the conversation, right? And I will be happy to respond to you. This is a community idea here. The idea is to create a place where we can talk about this stuff openly, right? And then the third subsection here, and this one might be a little bit wacky, might even be a little bit woo-woo for some of you. I don't think it is. I just think it's legitimately stepping outside of yourself and thinking of it in sort of an out-of-the-box way. And that is routine. I can't speak for you, but I personally function better when I have routine. My dog, he functions better when he has routine. That routine could be as simple as making the bed each morning. I've had this discussion with friends before, especially friends who are depressed. Something as simple as making the bed each morning, it gives you that tiny little hit of endorphins. And later on throughout the day, when you walk past or into your bedroom, you see a made bed, it gives you that little feeling of being good. I find when I am able to, because I've got a foot injury at the moment, but when I'm able to, I find walking at lunchtime a routine that really helps me. And to be clear, I'm a big guy, I'm a heavy guy. The first few days of walking are not easy. It hurts my back, it's tough. But after I've done it 3 or 4 days, I start having mental clarity that I don't get otherwise. And the routine is something my body gets used to, and it releases the good chemicals in the head. And you're able, or at least I am able, to start seeing things in a more constructive light. I'm less likely to go into a spiral of catastrophizing or something like that. Does that make sense? So that was acknowledge it, connect online, and routine. And now the fourth reason, or the fourth checkpoint I would give you here is the power of community. And that gets back to, like I said, either reach out to somebody on social media, somebody that you know, or perhaps acknowledge the fact that you're okay speaking to someone like me that you don't know. I would encourage you, like I did earlier, comment down below. Tell me, when do you feel loneliest, or when do you feel most abundant, sort of the opposite of loneliness? I would love to learn from that. I'm sure others would. And I truly hope that what I'm doing here is building some kind of community where we have a place where we can go and talk to each other and just sort of say, hey, I'm here. I want to be noticed. I want to be acknowledged. I want to be seen. And I want just somebody to basically show that I'm not alone. That might sound woo. That might sound cray-cray. But it's got to start somewhere, right? It's got to start somewhere. So please comment below. And then finally here, I'm trying to keep this under 15 minutes. My conclusion with loneliness. Loneliness sucks. I didn't go to school for that. I didn't have a degree to tell you that, but loneliness sucks. But I also am old enough to know that it doesn't define you. You're not broken because you're lonely. You're not broken because you're lonely. You're not broken because you're lonely. So please comment below and let's get some kind of community going here and see if we can help each other out. All right, guys, I think that's all for today. Be good to yourself.